Leah Ford was about to commit what many would call the biggest professional mistake of her life. There, in the conference room at Ellis Sustainable Farms, with an internship contract worth more than her dream salary extended in her direction, she shook her head negatively. "Thank you, but I cannot accept," she said, completely ignoring the astonished looks from everyone present and the almost inaudible sigh from the man sitting at the head of the table. Nicholas Ellis could not take his eyes off the woman who had just dismissed an opportunity that hundreds of recent graduates would kill to have. There was something about that refusal that intrigued him deeply, something that stirred a part of him he thought was permanently dormant. Therefore, while everyone else saw only a stubborn young woman wasting a unique chance, Nicholas saw a woman with principles too solid to accept what she considered a favor. The story had begun 3 weeks earlier, when Leah accidentally entered the classroom where Nicholas was giving a lecture on sustainable agriculture at the University of Texas at El Paso. She was looking for the adjacent room to promote a startup event from her computer science program, but ended up interrupting a class full of business administration students. Instead of simply apologizing and leaving, Leah introduced herself with that crooked smile that disarmed any defense. "Sorry for the invasion, everyone. I am Leah from computer science, and I came to steal 2 minutes of your time to talk about a fair that could change your entrepreneurial lives." What should have been just a quick announcement turned into 15 minutes of spontaneous presentation that captured the attention of even Nicholas. There was something magnetic about the way she spoke, gesticulating with her hands, her eyes shining with genuine enthusiasm. Therefore, when she finished and apologized again for the interruption, Nicholas did something he had never done before. He interrupted his own class to ask if she would like to have coffee afterward, but Leah politely declined, claiming she had class next, and she left, leaving behind a trail of curiosity that Nicholas could not explain. During the following weeks, he found himself thinking about her more times than he would like to admit. He discreetly researched her, discovered she was one of the best students in the program, that she had lived with her aunt since she was 16 and worked part-time at an electronics store to help with expenses. Therefore, when he learned she was looking for an internship, he did not hesitate to make an offer. The offer was more than generous. Paid internship in the information technology area at Ellis Sustainable Farms, with possibility of permanent employment, health insurance, and all the benefits that a company of his size offered. But Leah refused without even hearing the details. "I do not understand," said Victoria Sterling, the Human Resources Director, after Leah left the room. "She is exactly what we are looking for. Competent, dedicated, with excellent academic references. Why would she refuse?" Nicholas knew exactly why. He had seen in her eyes the same expression as when she accidentally entered his classroom. Pure dignity. Leah did not want to be seen as someone who got an opportunity for reasons other than her competence. And that, paradoxically, made her even more competent in his eyes. "Leave it to me," said Nicholas, surprising everyone. "Maybe she needs a different approach." Marcus Thompson, his best friend and minority partner in the company, stared at him with that expression that meant, "You are doing something you should not be doing." But Nicholas ignored the warning look. He had decided he would not give up on Leah Ford so easily. Fate, or perhaps just chance, gave them a second opportunity 2 weeks later. Nicholas was walking through the food truck festival, happening in downtown El Paso, trying to relax after a particularly stressful week of meetings with investors. The event was one of his few concessions to the more relaxed side of life, a way to connect with something real and authentic amid the corporate world that sometimes suffocated him. That was when he saw her. Leah was standing in front of a taco truck, with a concentrated expression on her face, clearly trying to decide between 2 flavors. She wore a simple floral blouse and faded jeans, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was absolutely beautiful in a way that made Nicholas' heart race for no apparent reason. He approached before even consciously deciding to do so. "The carnitas is the best," he said, stopping beside her. trust me. I have tested them all." Leah turned, and Nicholas saw the exact moment she recognized him. Her cheeks blushed slightly, but she did not seem embarrassed. On the contrary, she smiled with that same crooked smile that had won him over the first time. "Nicholas Ellis trying street food? Will this not ruin your reputation as a serious businessman?" she teased, and Nicholas laughed genuinely for the first time in weeks. "Maybe that is exactly what my reputation needs," he replied, ordering 2 tacos from the vendor. "Allow me to pay as an apology for trying to bribe you with that internship offer." "You were not bribing me," Leah said, accepting the taco. "You were being kind, but I could not accept." "Why not?" She took a bite of the taco, closing her eyes for a moment to savor it. "Because I need to know I achieved something through my own merit, not because a handsome businessman felt sorry for me." Nicholas almost choked on his own bite. "Handsome? Do not play modest," Leah laughed. "But that does not change the fact that I need to build my career based on my competence, not on favors." They walked together among the trucks, trying different foods and talking about everything and nothing. Nicholas discovered that Leah had strong opinions about sustainable technology, that she loved horror movies, but only watched them with the lights on, and that her greatest professional ambition was to develop systems that could make a difference in people's lives. "You know," said Nicholas when they stopped in front of an artisanal ice cream truck, "maybe you are right about merit. But what if I tell you that you have already proven your worth? That the offer I made was based purely on the research I did about your academic performance and your references?" Leah stared at him, looking for signs of lies in his eyes. "And I should believe that? You should believe that a businessman who got where he got would not waste resources on incompetent people, regardless of how beautiful they are," Nicholas replied, and had the satisfaction of seeing her cheeks blush again. The sun was setting when they finally separated, but Nicholas knew something had changed between them. Therefore, when Leah hesitated before saying goodbye, he knew there was a chance. "Nicholas," she said, seeming to make a difficult decision, if the offer is still standing, maybe I could reconsider, but with one condition." "What?" "1-month trial period. If I do not prove my worth in that time, I leave without resentment. And if you were really doing me a favor, I also leave. Deal?" Nicholas extended his hand, feeling something he had not felt in a long time, genuine expectation for the future. "Deal." But as he walked back to his car, Nicholas had no idea that Victoria Sterling had witnessed the entire encounter from afar, nor that she was already planning ways to ensure that Leah Ford would last much less than a month at Ellis Sustainable Farms. Monday arrived faster than Leah expected, bringing with it a mixture of nervousness and determination she had not felt since her first days of college. She arrived at Ellis Sustainable Farms 15 minutes early, wearing her best dress shirt, borrowed from her cousin Emma, and a skirt she had bought at a clearance sale 3 months earlier. It was not the perfect corporate wardrobe, but it was authentic, and that would have to be enough. The Ellis Sustainable Farms building impressed even those who just passed by on the sidewalk. 20 floors of glass and steel with vertical gardens that demonstrated the company's commitment to sustainability. Therefore, when Leah crossed the elegant lobby with its marble floor and carefully arranged plants, she felt like Alice falling down the rabbit hole, but a very well-dressed and intimidating rabbit. "Leah Ford," a female voice called her as soon as she approached the reception. A tall woman, impeccably dressed in a grey suit that probably cost more than Aunt Margaret's monthly salary, approached with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "I am Victoria Sterling, Human Resources Director. Welcome." There was something in Victoria's tone that immediately reminded Leah of the popular girls from high school, polite on the surface but with a subtle cruelty that only other women could detect. But Leah smiled back, determined not to start the first day looking for problems where perhaps none existed. "Thank you, Victoria. I am excited to start." "I am sure you are," Victoria replied, and this time Leah was certain there was an insinuation there. "Come, I will introduce you to your direct supervisor," As they walked through the corridors, Victoria explained the company's structure with the efficiency of someone who had given that presentation hundreds of times. But Leah noticed that she did not mention Nicholas once, as if he were just a distant figure in the corporate hierarchy, not the CEO who had personally invited her to work there. "Here is the IT department," Victoria announced, stopping in front of an open area with several workstations. "You will work directly with Robert Martinez, our systems coordinator. Robert, this is our new intern." Robert Martinez was a man in his 40s, with graying hair at the temples and a genuinely warm smile. Unlike Victoria, he seemed truly happy to meet her. "Leah, I heard great things about you. Nicholas showed me your academic portfolio. Impressive work." Victoria coughed delicately. "Well, I will leave you to get acquainted. Leah, remember that any questions about company policies, you should seek HR first. It is protocol." After Victoria walked away, Robert shook his head with an amused expression. "Ignore her excessive formality. Here in IT we are more relaxed. Come, I will show you your workstation." The first project Robert presented to Leah was exactly the type of challenge she loved: optimizing the company's organic product tracking system. It was complex enough to be interesting, but not so impossible that it made her question her abilities. Therefore, she dove into the work with the enthusiasm she always showed when she found an interesting technological problem to solve. "You work fast," observed Sofia Garcia, a systems analyst who worked at the station next to her. "And well, that system has been giving everyone headaches for weeks." "It is just a matter of understanding the logic behind the code," Leah replied, without taking her eyes off the screen. "Every program has its personality. You just need to figure out how it likes to be treated." Sophia laughed. "You talk about systems as if they were people." "Are they not?" Leah joked. "Temperamental, full of quirks. Sometimes they do exactly the opposite of what you expect. They seem quite human to me." It was then that she felt someone standing behind her chair. She turned and came face to face with Nicholas, who was observing her screen with a concentrated expression. He wore a light blue shirt that highlighted his dark eyes, and Leah had to make a conscious effort not to look too foolish. "How is the first day going?" he asked, and Leah noticed that several people in the department stopped to observe the interaction. "Productive," she replied, trying to maintain a professional tone. "Robert gave me an interesting project to start with." Nicholas nodded, but she noticed he wanted to say something more. There was a subtle tension in the air, as if both were very aware that they were not just boss and employee. There was something more there, something that started with tacos at a food truck festival. "Great. If you need anything," he began, but was interrupted by Victoria's arrival. "Nicholas," she said, with that perfect and cold smile. "I did not know you were visiting IT today. Any specific problem?" "No problem," Nicholas replied, but Leah noticed the subtle change in his posture. He became more formal, more distant. "Just checking how our new intern is adapting." "Such dedication," Victoria commented, and Leah was almost certain there was sarcasm in the observation. "I'm sure Leah will feel well welcomed by the team. Is that not right, Leah?" "Certainly," Leah replied, forcing a smile. The tension in the air was almost palpable now, and she began to realize there was much more happening there than she understood. Nicholas left a few minutes later, but not before casting a look at Leah that clearly said, "We will talk later." And Victoria also left, but her look said something completely different, something that made Leah feel an uncomfortable chill down her spine. "Welcome to corporate drama," Sophia murmured quietly after both had left. "Word of advice, be careful with Victoria. She does not like competition." "Competition?" Leah asked, genuinely confused. Sophia stared at her as if she were incredibly naive. "Honey, do you really not notice how Nicholas looks at you? And how Victoria notices that he looks at you?" Before Leah could respond, her phone vibrated with a text message from a number she did not recognize, but immediately suspected who it was. "Coffee after work? I need to make up for Saturday's taco with something more civilized." "Enil." Leah looked around the office, noticing that several people were still watching her discreetly. She swallowed hard, realizing she might have gotten herself into something much more complicated than she had imagined. But then she thought about the conversation she had with Nicholas at the festival, about how he made her laugh, about the genuine connection she felt between them. She typed back, "Only if it is somewhere that also serves tacos. I have developed an addiction. L." The response came almost immediately. "I know exactly the place. Pick you up at 6? Leah hesitated for just a second before responding, "I will meet you in the lobby. I do not want to cause more speculation." Smart and beautiful. Dangerous combination. Despite everything, the curious looks, Victoria's cold smile, the feeling of stepping on unknown ground, Leah smiled at her phone screen. Therefore, when Sophia asked if everything was okay, she nodded with more confidence than she actually felt. "Everything is fine. Just maybe you could teach me some things about navigating corporate waters." Sophia laughed. "Honey, if you are going out with the boss, you will need more than a few tips. But do not worry, I will protect you. All of us women need to help each other, especially when Victoria Sterling decides you are a threat." The rest of the day passed quickly, but Leah could not shake the feeling of being watched. Every time she looked up from her computer, it seemed like someone quickly looked away. When she went to the bathroom, she heard whispers that stopped abruptly when she entered. And when she returned to her desk after lunch, she found Victoria casually talking to Robert about conduct protocols for interns. But as the clock approached 6, anxiety was being replaced by something more like expectation. Nicholas had promised a place that served tacos, and Leah found herself genuinely curious to see what kind of establishment a millionaire CEO would consider appropriate for a casual date. At 6 o'clock sharp, she went down to the lobby where Nicholas was already waiting for her. He had changed from his suit to a casual shirt and jeans, and Leah was surprised to notice how much younger and more accessible he looked outside the corporate environment. "Ready for a culinary experience that will change your perspective on businessman food?" he asked, offering his arm. "Now I am worried," Leah laughed, accepting his arm. "Please tell me we are not going somewhere with more forks than I know how to use." "Better than that," Nicholas said, leading her out of the building. "We are going to a place where you eat with your hands." And it was at that moment, walking beside Nicholas through the streets of El Paso as the sun set, that Leah realized she might be about to discover that some bets were worth all the risks. The place Nicholas had in mind was a surprise Leah never could have imagined. A small family restaurant in the Sunset Heights neighborhood, completely different from the sophisticated restaurants she expected a CEO to frequent. The establishment had only 8 tables, walls decorated with old photos of El Paso, and an aroma of homemade spices that made anyone feel at home. "Seriously?" Leah laughed when they stopped in front of Miguel's Cantina. "Nicholas Ellis has a secret restaurant in a residential neighborhood." "I have several," he admitted, seeming almost embarrassed. "I grew up around here before my father made his fortune with organic agriculture. Miguel taught me to play dominoes at that corner table when I was 8 years old." There was something touching about the vulnerability with which Nicholas shared this information, as if being there was a way of showing Leah who he really was beneath the corporate veneer. Therefore, when they entered and Miguel shouted, "Nicolás, mijo," from the back of the kitchen, Leah understood she was being invited to know something very personal. "You brought a new girlfriend?" Miguel asked without ceremony, drying his hands on his apron before greeting Leah with a warm handshake. "She is a special friend," Nicholas replied, and Leah noticed he did not completely correct the man's assumption. "Ah, I understand." Miguel winked at Leah. "Special friend is code for I still do not know how to explain what she means to me. I have known this Nicholas since he was little, señorita. He never brought any special friends here." Nicholas sighed but was smiling. "Miguel, you could try not to scare her on the first date." "First date!" the man exclaimed, clapping his hands. "So it is serious. I will make my special tacos for you, and no refusing, it is on the house." While Miguel disappeared into the kitchen excitedly, Leah and Nicholas sat at the corner table, the same where, apparently, An 8-year-old Nicholas had learned about dominoes and life. "He is adorable," Leah said, observing the photos on the walls. "And did you really bring other people here?" "Never," Nicholas admitted. "Actually, not even my closest friends know this place. It is kind of my refuge when the corporate world gets too heavy." "And you are sharing your secret refuge with me? Why?" Nicholas studied her for a moment, as if trying to figure out how to answer honestly without exposing himself too much. "Because you are the first person in a long time who makes me want to share real things." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the most elaborate tacos Leah had ever seen, gourmet fillings that Miguel had clearly invented especially for the occasion. But what really caught her attention was how Nicholas completely relaxed in that environment, laughing loudly at the owner's jokes, telling childhood stories, being simply human. "Can I ask a personal question?" Leah said after they finished eating and Miguel returned to the kitchen. "You can. Why did you really call me to work at your company? And do not give me the corporate answer about merit and competence. I want the truth." Nicholas was silent for a long moment, playing with the napkin between his fingers. "Because when you entered that classroom by mistake, it was the first time in years that someone truly surprised me. You were not trying to impress me. You did not know who I was. You did not want anything from me. You were just you. And that was refreshing in a way I did not even know I needed. And now? Now that I work for you? Now," he said, meeting her eyes, "I am trying to figure out how to separate what I feel as Nicholas, the person, from what I need to do as Nicholas, the CEO. And it is not being easy." Leah felt her heart accelerate. "What do you feel as Nicholas, the person?" Before he could answer, Nicholas' phone rang. He looked at the screen and frowned. "Sorry, it is Marcus. My partner would not call now if it were not important." The call lasted only a few minutes, but Leah saw Nicholas' expression gradually change from relaxation to concern. When he hung up, he looked tense again. "Problem at the company?" she asked. "You could say that," Nicholas replied, running his hand through his hair. "It seems our outing together today did not go unnoticed. Marcus said Victoria has already spread around the company that you are receiving special treatment from the CEO. Leah felt her stomach sink. "And that is bad for you?" "Potentially very bad. Victoria has influence with several important investors in the company. If she decides you are a distraction for me, she can fire me. She can make your professional life hell until you want to leave on your own." Leah was silent, processing the information. Therefore, after a moment, she sighed and smiled with an irony she did not feel. "Well, at least we lasted longer than the tacos." Nicholas stared at her, surprised by her lightness in the face of the situation. "You are not angry? Angry with whom? With you for asking me out? With Victoria for being professionally petty? With the universe for making things complicated?" Leah shook her head. "Being angry will not solve anything, but I have an important question." "What? Are you going to let Victoria and the investors dictate who you can or cannot date?" The question caught Nicholas off guard. He opened his mouth to answer, then closed it, clearly struggling with the response. "It is a simple question, Nicholas," Leah continued, her voice gentle but firm. "Either you own your own life, or you are just a very well-dressed puppet. It is not that simple." "Of course it is. You can choose to be Nicholas the person or Nicholas the CEO, but you cannot be both at the same time when they want different things. And tonight, here in this place that means something real to you, I met Nicholas the person, and I like him." Nicholas studied her with an intensity that made Leah shift uncomfortably in her chair. "And what if Nicholas the person makes decisions that negatively affect Nicholas the CEO? What if that means problems for the company, for you? Then Nicholas the person will have to be smart enough to find a way to protect both things that matter to him," Leah replied. "But the first decision he needs to make is, do I matter to him?" The silence that followed was charged with tension, but not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that precedes big decisions, big changes, big risks. Leah could almost see Nicholas weighing his options, struggling between the safety of the known and the promise of the unexplored. Finally, he extended his hand across the table, finding hers. "You matter, more than you should, considering we have known each other for such a short time. More than is prudent, considering our circumstances. But you matter." Leah intertwined her fingers with his, feeling a spark of something that could be love, or could just be the excitement of something forbidden. "Then let us figure out together what to do with this." When they left the restaurant, after Nicholas argued with Miguel to be allowed to pay the bill, both knew they had crossed a line. They were no longer just boss and employee, not even just two people attracted to each other. They were accomplices in something that could go very right or very wrong. "Can I give you a ride home?" Nicholas asked when they reached the sidewalk. "Better not," Leah replied, though she wanted to accept. "Tomorrow will be an interesting day at the office. Better I arrive by my own means." Nicholas nodded, understanding the wisdom behind the decision. "Leah?" "Yes? Tomorrow, at the office, maybe it is better we keep our distance, at least until we figure out how to deal with this." "I agree. But Nicholas." "Yes? This does not mean we are giving up. It just means we are going to be strategic." Nicholas smiled, and Leah saw in that smile all the promise of adventures to come. Strategic. I like that. But while Nicholas drove home and Leah waited for the bus, neither knew that Victoria Sterling had spent the entire afternoon making phone calls. Or that, at that exact moment, Harrison Blackwood, the largest individual investor in Ellis Sustainable Farms, was scheduling a meeting for the next morning with a single item on the agenda: the professional inadequacy of the CEO and its possible consequences for the company. The war had not officially begun yet, but the first battles were already being planned. Leah arrived at the office the next morning with a determination that surprised even herself. She had decided during the bus ride that regardless of what Victoria or anyone else thought about her relationship with Nicholas, she would prove her professional worth incontestably. Therefore, when she passed through reception at 7:30 in the morning, an hour before official business hours, she was ready to work harder than she had ever worked. The IT department was almost empty, just her and two colleagues who always arrived early. Perfect. Leah turned on her computer and dove into the tracking system optimization project, determined to finish it before the expected deadline. But her concentration was broken when she heard raised voices coming from the nearby conference room. "Completely inappropriate for someone in your position, Nicholas." The voice was masculine, deep, authoritative. "You are compromising the entire company's reputation because of a random girl." Leah recognized the voice that responded. Nicholas, but a Nicholas she had never heard before, cold and controlled. "Harrison, my personal life is not company business." "Your personal life becomes company business when you decide to publicly flirt with an employee. Victoria told me about yesterday. You were seen leaving together, Nicholas. This is a scandal waiting to happen." Leah felt her blood freeze in her veins. She knew she should stop listening, go back to work, pretend she had not heard anything. But something kept her there, paralyzed, listening to her professional life being dissected by men who did not even know her. "Harrison," Nicholas' voice was dangerously low now, "you are crossing all boundaries. I am your largest individual investor. I have dozens of other companies that depend on Ellis Sustainable Farms' success. And you want to throw all of this away for what? For an intern who has worked here for 2 days." It was then that Victoria spoke, her voice sweet as poisoned honey. "Nicholas, we all know you are an upright man, but sometimes when we are lonely, we can make decisions based on impulse instead of reason. Maybe it is better to admit that hiring Miss Ford was an error in judgment." "An error?" Nicholas repeated, and Leah could imagine the icy expression on his face. "An understandable error," Harrison quickly agreed. "You are young, single. It is natural that a pretty girl would catch your attention. But now it is time to be mature. Fire her today before this becomes a bigger problem." "And if I refuse?" The silence that followed was deafening. Leah held her breath, her heart beating so loud she was sure everyone on the floor could hear it. "Then," Harrison said finally, "maybe it is time to reconsider our partnership, Nicholas. There are other talented young entrepreneurs in El Paso who could benefit from the type of investment we have made in you." It was a clear threat, brutal in its simplicity. Leah closed her eyes, feeling nauseous. Nicholas was being forced to choose between his company, his dream, his entire life, and her, a woman he had known for only a few weeks. The choice was obvious. "I understand your position perfectly, Harrison," Nicholas said, and Leah began to mentally prepare for the dismissal that was coming. "And I appreciate your concern for the company's future." "Great! I knew you would be sensible." Harrison seemed relieved. "Victoria can handle the legal details of the dismissal." "But," Nicholas continued, and there was something different in his voice now, something that made Leah open her eyes, "you seem to have forgotten something fundamental." "What would that be?" "That I built this company from scratch. That every contract, every innovation, every success you value so much came from my work, my vision, my dedication. And you really think you are going to blackmail me about who I can or cannot date?" Nicholas' tone was changing, becoming stronger, more determined. Leah moved closer to the door, barely able to breathe. "Nicholas, you are being emotional," Victoria began. "I am being lucid for the first time in months," Nicholas interrupted her. "You know what the problem is? It is not Leah. It is you. It is this mentality that you can control every aspect of my life because you invested money in my company." "Nicholas, think carefully about what you are doing," Harrison tried to intervene. "I have thought, and here is my decision. Leah Ford remains in the company because she is a competent professional who deserves to be here. If you cannot accept that, then maybe you are the ones who need to reevaluate whether you want to continue associated with someone who values merit above politics." Leah had to lean against the wall. Nicholas was defending her? Was he risking everything for her? "You are crazy!" Harrison exploded. "You are throwing away years of work because of a girl you barely know." "No," Nicholas replied, and his voice was calm again, but there was steel in it. "I am defending my right to make my own decisions and my right to evaluate employees based on competence, not office intrigue. This is the end, Nicholas. I am withdrawing my investment today." "Your prerogative. But let me clarify something, Harrison. If you leave, you will discover you are not as indispensable as you think. This company survived before you and will survive after you." Leah heard heavy footsteps approaching the door and quickly returned to her desk, pretending to be focused on the computer. Harrison passed by her like a hurricane, without even looking in her direction. Victoria came behind, but stopped beside Leah's desk. "Enjoy it while you can," Victoria murmured quietly, only for Leah to hear. Men like Nicholas get tired of new toys very quickly. After Victoria walked away, Leah stared at the computer screen without seeing anything. Her hands trembled slightly, and she did not know if it was from anger, fear, or pure emotion from what had just happened. Nicholas had chosen her. He had risked his company for her, but at what cost? "Leah!" His voice behind her made her jump in her chair. She turned and saw Nicholas standing there, with his hair disheveled as if he had run his hands through it several times. "Nicholas, You heard," he said. It was not a question. "I did not want to, but it is okay. Actually, it is better that you know exactly what situation we are in." Leah stood up, noticing that several people in the department were trying to discreetly listen to the conversation. "Nicholas, you should not have done that. My company will be fine. Harrison is just an investor. He does not own anything. And Victoria," Nicholas looked in the direction she had gone, "Victoria has been overstepping her bounds for a long time. But what if other investors think like him? What if you lose everything because of me?" Nicholas took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Leah, do you really think I built all this to live as a prisoner of others' opinions? That I worked so hard to get here just to let others decide how I should live my life? No, but there are no buts. Here is the truth. You are worth the risk. What I feel for you is worth the risk. And if that scares you as much as it scares me, at least we are in the same situation." Leah stared at him, looking for signs of regret, doubt, ulterior motives, but all she saw was determination and something that could be nascent love shining in his dark eyes. "And now?" she asked. "Now," Nicholas smiled, and it was the first genuine smile he had given that morning. "Now we work. You are going to finish this project and show me why betting on you was the best decision I ever made. And I am going to find out exactly which investors are really partners and which are just people trying to buy influence." "Nicholas." "Yes? Thank you for believing in me. For defending me." "Thank you," he replied, "for reminding me who I really am." When Nicholas walked away, Leah returned to work with renewed energy. But she did not notice Sophia watching her with concern from across the room. Nor did she see when Victoria returned and had a whispered conversation with two employees near the door. War had been officially declared, and Leah was right in the center of it. The question now was whether love would be strong enough to survive what was to come. 2 weeks had passed since the confrontation in the conference room, and the tension in the Ellis Sustainable Farms office was almost palpable. Leah had become the center of all conversations, the subject that stopped abruptly when she entered a room, the reason for curious looks and whispers in the hallway. But to many people's surprise, especially Victoria's, she not only survived the scrutiny, but thrived under pressure. The tracking system optimization project that should have taken a month to complete was practically finished in 2 weeks. Leah had identified 3 critical flaws that were costing the company thousands of dollars monthly and proposed elegant solutions that impressed even the most experienced technicians. Therefore, when Robert presented the preliminary results of her work at the weekly department meeting, even Victoria had to admit, through gritted teeth, that the performance was satisfactory. "Satisfactory?" Sophia commented after the meeting, shaking her head in disbelief. "The girl just saved the company the equivalent of 3 employees' annual salary, and Victoria calls that satisfactory." Leah was organizing her files when she heard the conversation. "At least she did not say it was horrible," she joked, trying to keep the tone light. "You are being too understanding with her," Sophia observed. "Victoria is clearly trying to sabotage you." It was true. In recent days, Leah had noticed small things, projects being reassigned without explanation, important meetings she was forgotten about, reports that mysteriously disappeared from her desk. But she had decided to combat sabotage with professional excellence, documenting everything meticulously and always delivering results that were impossible to criticize. Nicholas had kept his promise to maintain professional distance during work hours, but that did not mean they did not communicate. Discreet messages, meaningful looks when they crossed paths in the hallway, and an occasional chance encounter in the elevator kept the connection alive. But Leah felt the pressure was taking its toll on Nicholas. He seemed more tense, more tired, as if he were fighting battles on multiple fronts. The situation reached a critical point on a Thursday afternoon, when Leah was summoned to an extraordinary performance evaluation meeting. The timing was suspicious. She had been at the company for only 3 weeks, and formal evaluations normally happened after 3 months. The meeting was held in the main conference room, with Victoria, Robert, and a legal representative Leah did not know. Nicholas' conspicuous absence made her stomach contract with apprehension. "Leah," Victoria began with that cold smile Leah had learned to fear, "this meeting is a necessary formality, considering some concerns that have arisen about your cultural fit within the company." "Concerns?" Leah asked, keeping her voice calm, although her heart was racing. The legal representative, a thin man named Mr. Davidson, shuffled through some papers before speaking. "Some allegations have been made about inappropriate behavior in the workplace, inappropriate relationships with superiors, use of personal influence to obtain professional advantages." "With all due respect, Mr. Davidson," Leah interrupted, "who made these allegations?" And what evidence exists to support them? Victoria shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Several people reported observations. People with names? Specific observations? Leah insisted. Because if we are going to talk about professional behavior, I would like to know exactly what I am being accused of. Robert, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. Leah, nobody's accusing you of anything specific, but there is a perception. A perception based on what? Leah asked, her patience finally running out. On my work? Because I can show detailed reports of everything I have produced in the last 3 weeks. On my behavior, because I arrive early, leave late, and treat everyone with professional respect. Or is the perception based on the fact that the company's CEO invited me for coffee and some people decided to turn that into a scandal? The silence that followed was charged with tension. Mr. Davidson looked at Victoria, who looked at Robert, who seemed to want to be anywhere but in that room. Leah, Victoria said finally, maybe it would be better for everyone if you considered other opportunities. We can provide excellent references, generous compensation. Are you firing me? Leah asked directly. We are offering a mutually beneficial transition, Mr. Davidson began. You are firing me, Leah repeated more to herself than to them. After 3 weeks of exemplary work, you are firing me because I went out for coffee with Nicholas. It was then that the conference room door opened abruptly and Nicholas entered like a hurricane. Sorry for the interruption, he said, but his tone indicated he was not sorry at all. Nicholas, Victoria stood up quickly. This is a private HR meeting about my employee, which makes it my responsibility too, Nicholas replied, heading directly to the chair next to Leah. Please continue. What exactly are you discussing? The discomfort in the room was almost physical now. Mr. Davidson nervously shuffled his papers before responding. We were discussing some concerns about cultural fit. Based on what? Nicholas asked, echoing exactly the question Leah had asked. Victoria took a deep breath, clearly deciding to bet everything. Nicholas, we all know that your closeness with Miss Ford is causing problems in the company. Employees are questioning whether she receives special treatment. Investors are concerned about your professional image. Which employees? Nicholas asked calmly. Names, please. Well, and which investors? Because I have spoken with most of them in the last 2 weeks, and none mentioned concerns about Leah specifically. They mentioned concerns about rumors and gossip circulating in the company, but that is quite different. Leah watched fascinated as Nicholas systematically dismantled every argument Victoria had constructed. It was like watching a master strategist in action. Nicholas, Mr. Davidson tried to intervene. From a legal standpoint, it is better to prevent any appearance of impropriety. From a legal standpoint, Nicholas interrupted him, it is better to have solid documentation before firing someone without just cause. And I imagine you have that documentation, correct? More silence. Nicholas turned to Leah. Would you like to continue working here? Yes, she replied without hesitation. I love my job. I love the challenges, I love the IT team, I love the feeling of making a difference. I just do not love being treated as if my competence was secondary to rumors about my personal life. Perfect. Then it is decided. Nicholas stood up. Leah continues with the company. Robert, can you forward her performance report to my desk? I would like to review it personally. Nicholas, you cannot simply... Victoria began. I can, and I am doing it. And Victoria, I would like to have a private conversation with you later about professional boundaries and about what happens when someone repeatedly crosses those boundaries. When Nicholas and Leah left the room, leaving behind a visibly shaken Victoria and a confused Mr. Davidson, Leah felt a mixture of relief and concern. Nicholas, she said when they reached the hallway, you do not need to save me every time. I was not saving you, he replied. I was protecting a valuable employee from workplace harassment disguised as corporate policy. There is a difference. Even so, Nicholas stopped walking and turned to face her. Leah, do you really think I did this for you? I did it for me. Because a company that fires competent people because of gossip is not a company I want to run. There was truth in those words, but Leah also saw something more in his eyes. Something that made her heart accelerate and her resolution to maintain professional distance waver. Nicholas? Yes, thank you. Again. Stop thanking me and get back to work. I have a feeling the next few days are going to be interesting, and we need to be prepared. Leah nodded and headed back to the IT department, where she found Sophia and several colleagues pretending to work, but obviously waiting to hear what had happened. So, Sophia asked quietly. I am still employed, Leah replied, turning on her computer. And Victoria? Leah smiled, and there was something fierce in that smile. I think Victoria is going to discover she underestimated both Nicholas and me. But as she dove back into work, Leah could not help wondering how much longer this situation could last. Each victory seemed only to increase Victoria's determination to destroy her, and she knew the next battle would be even more brutal. The question was, would she and Nicholas be strong enough to survive what was coming? The answer would come sooner than she imagined. Epilogue. 6 months later, Leah was on the balcony of the apartment she now shared with Nicholas, watching the sunset paint the El Paso sky with orange and pink tones. It was surreal to think about how her life had changed since that day when she refused a job out of pride and stubbornness. Ellis Sustainable Farms not only survived Harrison Blackwood's departure, but prospered. Other investors, attracted by innovation and consistent results, quickly filled the void left by the traditional financier. The system optimized by Leah had saved the company more than $200,000 in the first quarter, and she now led the entire information technology division. Victoria Sterling had resigned 3 months ago after an internal audit revealed several irregularities in her reports and HR practices. Her replacement, a competent and pragmatic woman named Jennifer Walsh, had transformed the Human Resources Department into a much more collaborative and professional environment. What are you thinking about? Nicholas asked, appearing on the balcony with 2 cups of coffee and sitting beside her on the rocking chair they had bought the previous month. About how sometimes the best decisions are the ones we make on impulse, Leah replied, accepting the coffee and snuggling against him. If I had accepted that job offer the first time, we probably never would have truly gotten to know each other. You would have accepted eventually, Nicholas said, kissing the top of her head. I am very persistent when I want something. Arrogant, Leah corrected, but was smiling. Confident, he countered, and right, as the facts proved. They remained in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the city prepare for night. Nicholas' phone rang, but he ignored it, a significant change from the man who used to answer every call immediately. Are you not going to answer? Leah asked. It is Marcus, probably wanting to confirm if we will be at his barbecue on Saturday, and we will be, so it can wait. Leah laughed. Marcus had become one of their relationship's biggest supporters, always saying Nicholas was much more relaxed and human since he had been with her. He will be irritated if you do not answer. Let him be. I am busy enjoying a perfect moment with the woman I love. The words came out naturally, as if Nicholas said them every day, but Leah felt her heart accelerate, as it always did when he spoke about love. It was still new for both of them, this feeling that had grown from mutual attraction into something deep and true. I love you too, she replied, turning to kiss him softly. Even when you are being arrogant. Especially when I am being arrogant, Nicholas corrected, deepening the kiss. When they separated, Leah sighed contentedly. You know what is funny? Everyone in El Paso offices still talks about us. My cousin's dentist's secretary commented the other day that we are the couple who proved office relationships can work out. We are famous, Nicholas joked. Local romantic icons. Icons who almost destroyed a company through mutual stubbornness. Icons who saved a company from becoming a toxic environment controlled by small people, Nicholas corrected, and who proved that sometimes it is worth fighting for what is right, even when everyone says you are crazy. Leah nestled closer to him, thinking of Aunt Margaret's words when she told her about the relationship. Those who are real shine without effort, my dear. And you two together shine so bright that even the blind can see. Nicholas. Do you regret anything? The fights, the pressure, risking so much? Nicholas was quiet for a moment, seriously considering the question. I regret taking so long to realize you were worth any risk. I regret letting Victoria cause problems for so long before acting. I regret almost losing you out of fear of what other people would think. But you do not regret fighting for us? Never. It was the best decision I ever made in my life. Nicholas' phone rang again, and this time Leah pushed him gently. Answer it. It might be important. Nicholas sighed and answered. Marcus, I hope this is an emergency. What? When? No, I have not seen the news. Okay, thanks for letting me know. What was it? Leah asked, worried about Nicholas' expression. Harrison Blackwood was just arrested for tax evasion. Apparently, the IRS has been investigating him for months. Leah was speechless. Seriously, Marcus said it is in all the local newspapers. Businessman known for agribusiness investments arrested in anti-evasion operation. Wow. And to think he wanted to give us lessons in morals and business ethics. Nicholas shook his head, but was smiling. You know what this means, that the universe has a sense of humor, and that maybe, just maybe, people with integrity have better chances of long-term success than people who only care about appearances. Do you think Victoria knew? Honestly, I do not care. She is out of our lives, Harrison is out of our lives, and we are here together building something real. Leah smiled, feeling deep gratitude for how things had worked out. So, where do we go from here? Wherever you want, Nicholas replied, kissing her hand. Like Leah Ford, would you like to marry me and put up with me being arrogant for the rest of your life? Nicholas Ellis, Leah replied, feeling tears of happiness in her eyes. I thought you would never ask. Is that a yes? It is an obviously yes, but only if you promise to keep taking me to Miguel's cantina at least once a month. Nicholas laughed loudly, that free laugh she had heard for the first time at that restaurant, and that she knew she wanted to hear for the rest of her life. But I would like to suggest we start thinking about making this living together situation more official. Leah's heart jumped. Official how? Nicholas smiled, that slightly shy smile she had learned to love. Deal. Miguel will be thrilled when he finds out he is going to have a wedding to celebrate. As Nicholas kissed her in the middle of the balcony, with the sound of the city in the background and the sky painted in impossible colors, Leah thought that sometimes the best stories begin with the most difficult decisions. She had turned down a job without thinking, but the millionaire behind the offer could not stop thinking about her. And now, 6 months later, she knew that some bets were worth all the risks in the world.